I'd like to tell you, if I may, a gripping tale of sporting achievement.
Last Sunday was the Jungle Cup final.
The insects versus the mammals.
Sadly, the mammals were just too strong for the poor insects.
By half-time, the insects were 13-0 down.
Back in the insect dressing room,
The manager did his best to pick up his downhearted troops.
And sent them back out to resume battle.
Well, alas, the second half
was just as one-sided as the first.
And with 5 minutes to go, the score was an embarrassing 24-0.
When the insect manager
pulls off an airway and brings on a millipede.
Anyway, this millipede's brilliant and he starts banging in goals from all over the pitch.
By the final whistle, it scored
25 goals.
And the insects win the cup.
25-24.
And after the match, John Motson asks the manager,
how come you didn't play him from the start?
And the manager replies,
I would have done, but he was
putting his boots on.
well, you've got to laugh, haven't you?
Can you just run that past me again?
Check up on your team now on BBC One. All today's results with Ray Stubbs.
El campeón por excelencia de la Copa de Europa.
راجع كازابلانكا أبطال أندية القارة الإفريقية. النصر أبطال كأس الكؤوس. نحن عروس آسيا.
The best team from a continent knows loads about beating the world, mate.
Campeões da América estão onde se faz o futebol mais bonito.
And they're all coming face to face with the biggest club in the world.
Manchester United in the World Club Championship, live from Brazil this January on BBC One, BBC Choice and Radio 5 Live.
The new Radio Times has features and previews of forthcoming BBC programmes and listings for all major television channels. This is BBC One. Now the BBC News with Sian Williams.
A plane hijack in Afghanistan. The gunmen demand $200 million and they refuse an appeal to free the women and children on board. Could this be the man to be the latest Nazi war criminal sheltering here? And England on top as 10 South African wickets fall in a day.
Join BBC One this New Year's Eve as 2000 Today takes you around the world and into the new millennium.
Right. So who's for a pint? Half litre?
Love a pickled herring. But at 5:30, will they be cracking open the champagne in Albert Square?
They'll be fine.
I don't want fine, I want it to be perfect.
At 7:05.
Join us for the grand final of 2001.
And at 8, it's back to the main question.
What if I'm making a terrible mistake?
At 9:25, Texas and Barbara Windsor join Dale Winter.
You are really spoiling us.
And then join David Attenborough, Michael Burke, the two Ronnies, Vic and Bob, Michael Palin and Lenny Henry as the stars come out across the universe. In Greenwich, Jamie Theakston plays host to the Eurythmics, Simply Red and Martine McCutcheon. And at 12:35, Dale's back. A night like no other.
I don't know what all this fuss is about.
Join BBC One as 2000 Today welcomes you to the new millennium.
This is BBC One in the northeast and Cumbria. And now, look north with John Lawrence.
A bit of drama and a lot of running.
It's just like nothing else that we deal with.
No. They're not so cuddly as I thought.
What a buzz. The heat today was just incredible.
Join Truder and Steve on safari in a brand new series.
It was complete action, wasn't it?
It was very hectic.
Vets in the Wild, next Tuesday at 8 on BBC One.
Christmas with Lily, Blankety Blank on BBC One in half an hour after a trawl for mussels.
El campeón por excelencia de la Copa de Europa!
راجا كازابلانكا أبطال أندية القارة الإفريقية. النصر أبطال كأس الكؤوس. نحن عروس آسيا.
The best team from a continent knows loads about beating the world, mate.
Os campeões da América estão onde se faz o futebol mais bonito.
And they're all coming face to face with the biggest club in the world.
Manchester United in the World Club Championship, live from Brazil this January on BBC One, BBC Choice and Radio 5 Live.
Bank Holiday Tuesday on BBC One. A big day in Ballycay.
A double vodka and white for me and the girls, and then we're off to Lorenzo.
And Kathleen has one too many.
Just push the cone down. Don't throw your weight around with me, copper.
And in Jonathan Creek at 9, it's not who, it's how.
I've seen my share of spells and sorcery, but nothing quite like this.
As a freak accident turns into something more sinister.
What have we here?
Don't miss the drama. Tonight from 8, BBC One.
Win a year off work with 2000 to 1. The quiz continues after a spell from BBC One's Christmas Fairy.